Let's talk about the market structures bill. This will try to be me explaining something that's complex. It won't be nicely polished. It won't be nicely edited. The audio probably won't be quite right. The video won't be quite right. I'll stumble over my words. This will be difficult. I don't like being on here. It'll probably be painful for both of us, but I'll try my best because I want to convey to you important information. Important information that I have access to because I'm a Montanan. A Montanan who lives in a state with a small population and has direct access to his senator. It's easier for a Montanan to talk with their senator. It's easier for a Montanan to know what's going on in Washington, D.C. than the average U.S. citizen. And because of that, I can tell you about something that's not in the headlines, something that's not in your news feed, and that's the Market Structures Bill. It's probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that'll be passed in the next umpteen years. And that piece of legislation sits before the Senate Banking Committee and the Senate Agriculture Committee. And what does it do? It will govern digital assets. Now, what is so significant about digital assets? Well, you may or may not know, but this past summer, there was legislation passed regarding stablecoins. And the big banks and big credit card companies lobbied for that because they intend and already are conducting transactions using stablecoins. Stablecoins are a cryptocurrency that's pegged to the dollar and backed by U.S. bonds. It allows you to trade a dollar for a coin and to trade a coin for a dollar. It'll always be pegged the same. It doesn't protect you from inflation, but it can protect you from the volatility that you see within cryptocurrencies. The early proponents of cryptocurrencies talked about how the government wouldn't be able to create them, wouldn't be able to destroy them, wouldn't be able to control them. But that's not entirely accurate because cryptocurrencies trade on exchanges, as do stablecoins, as do a third asset class called utility tokens. Why does that matter? Because as more and more transactions take place using digital assets, the exchanges are regulated, will be regulated, and are regulated, and they're required to perform know your customer checks. And know your customer checks require the exchanges to run your information against lists provided by the government of approved and non-approved people. And who are these people on these lists? Terrorists, money launderers, etc. Okay, well, that doesn't sound so bad, and indeed it's not. But if the government should so choose, they could expand the definition of what is or isn't a terrorist, and the government could augment or supplement the existing lists with additional ones. So the possibility for the government to exclude you from being able to participate in the economy and to buy and to sell would increase significantly. Now, you're not obligated currently to utilize digital assets. But as more and more payments are transacted on the exchanges, you'll quickly find yourself in a position where you are having to use digital assets, whether you intend to or not. Now, are we there yet? No, we're not there yet, but we're getting closer and closer all the time. And I would like to bring this market structures bill to your attention because this is the inflection point where if you want to have some say and some influence over this, this is the time and this is the issue to do it on. Will you have other opportunities later? Maybe you might, but this is the most significant one that you need to say something about and say it now. And it's not going to create a lot of buzz. It's not going to draw a lot of attention, but it should, because the government has the potential to be punitive in how it enforces who can buy and who can sell. Now, are they there yet? No, they're not. Does it seem far-fetched? It might right now. Are they intending this to be nefarious? No, I don't believe they are. But does it put us a step closer in that direction? It absolutely does. How did I become aware of this? I became aware of this because I'm the president of a small company in Montana called Meadowlark Manufacturing, LLC. And our small company is working on drone support equipment. And we wanted to offer utility tokens. And utility tokens are like gift cards, credit card points, but they use digital asset space so that you don't have to constantly reload a gift card. You don't constantly have to have physical paper in your hand or physical plastic in your hand. And we thought this would be really a good fit for our business. It would allow us to offer some options to our customers. And as we looked into that, we looked into how that's regulated. And that already is regulated. But the Market Structures Bill will add a whole additional burdensome layer of regulation to utility tokens. So burdensome that I would argue it's exclusionary of small businesses being able to participate in digital assets. And as we looked at that, we realized that it had these other issues regarding all other forms of digital assets as well. Now, should there be checks for money laundering and terrorist funding? Absolutely. Are there some real advantages to digital assets? Yes, reducing friction within the banking system is a good thing. That reduces payments. That allows you to have money in your hand quicker. There are some incredibly good options here that this technology of distributed ledger and blockchain affords us. So I'm not saying or arguing that we shouldn't have digital assets. What I am arguing is that there should be a safety valve that allows people who don't want to participate directly with that system to be able to still have exposure to digital assets. How do I mean that specifically? Well, if you think about it right now, the people who are really the crypto lobby, the cryptocurrency lobby, they want there to be more legitimacy for the crypto space. Why? Because they want wider adoption from the general public. Why? Because they want you to spend your money on their exchanges, purchasing their tokens in order to gain fees to make money off of the wider public being involved. Okay, that all sounds, like you'd expect. Well, the thing about that is that they are going to be regulated. And up till now, that regulation has not been clearly defined. And when Congress doesn't clearly define something, if you want to know what the clear definition is, you usually have to go through the courts, because the government organizations have all said that's under our purview. SEC has said we get to regulate that. Commodities Futures Trading Commission says no, we get to regulate that. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau said no, we get to regulate that. And so they've all tried to regulate it. And the people who are trying to issue cryptocurrencies and trade them on exchanges have been slapped with lawsuits by all of these different organizations. And they said, enough, this is crazy. You need to come up with a definitive rule of who's in charge of what. So that, again, makes sense. Some of these lawsuits can take 5 years and cost millions of dollars. And for a small company, that'll just break you. You can't do that. So even the bigger companies are like, this is ridiculous. And then they say, you know what? If we're going to be regulated, we want to be regulated by the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission as opposed to the Securities and Exchange Commission. So that's what the crypto lobby has pushed Congress for. They've pushed for being regulated by the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission. Okay, I have no problem with that. That's fine. But they also have been doing something that they haven't been mandated to do, and that's biometric scanning, facial recognition scanning, because there have been so many scams and so much stealing and so much theft within the crypto space. These exchanges are typically where that theft takes place. When you hear about the North Koreans stealing $1 billion in crypto, what they did was hacked an exchange. When you hear about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried and defrauding people, that's an exchange. That's how the frauds are typically perpetuated. If you really want to be secure in your digital assets, you hold them personally. But many people use digital wallets, which stores their digital assets with the exchange. So the exchange holds their PIN number, their access to their crypto. And those PIN numbers can be stolen. And that's where the hacks have taken place. That's where the theft has taken place. So to verify that it's genuinely you who are accessing their systems, they're using more and more biometric and facial scans. That's exclusionary to many people. And the government typically goes with whatever the latest most commonly used tech is. So they're looking around and they're saying, oh, a majority of companies have adopted biometrics. We haven't mandated that up till now, but you know what? It's more convenient for us when we're regulating if all the companies are doing their checks the same way. And so it's very foreseeable that they would mandate everybody who has an exchange to use biometrics, whether you be a centralized exchange, whether you be a decentralized exchange. Now, that's a significant distinction, but it's not pertinent for today's conversation. So I'm not just going to tell you a bunch of information to get you all worried and riled up without giving you the opportunity to do something about it. And I have worked, my company that I'm part of, I don't own it outright, but I'm part of it, has worked to get suggested amendments to our Montana Senator, Senator Daines. But Senator Daines, while he's doing what he can, he needs support from other senators to be able to bring it forward as an amendment. I'm not part of, and Meadowlark certainly isn't part of, any big lobby group. So the only way for this to draw their attention to, hey, we need some other options here, is if enough people call in and contact their senators and say, would you contact Senator Daines and encourage him to bring forward the utility token amendment? Now, why utility tokens? Because it's a safety valve. Because if you put that in place, we've made suggestions that for verification, you not have to use biometrics, that you be able to use your own local bank who knows, based off your transaction history, whether you're money laundering or not. Your bank, your own local bank, has a pretty good idea if that's what you're doing or not. And also, we've said, hey, that should be sufficient. And we have to register as a money service business anyway if we want to offer utility tokens. And we're willing for people to purchase utility tokens from us directly. And then they don't have to go on the exchanges if they don't want to, and there's less risk of them being excluded from the digital asset space and from the economy as a whole. Now, are they going to have all the features that you get from an exchange? No, they won't. But also we've made the suggestion that the daily limits not be in place because digital assets are different than cash. They're a hybrid instrument. They can have some characteristics of a currency. They can have the characteristics of a gift card. They have a lot of different features to them. So the old ways of regulating securities that the Securities and Exchange Commission has typically used just is not adequate anymore. Now, our commitment as a company is that we're going to build out our own security as best we can as we grow in order to protect from the fraudsters and from the money launderers and from the human slavers and from the drug cartels and from all these different types. Now, that's a big claim to make as a tiny company, but and we won't be the cheapest. I guarantee you we won't be the cheapest at transactions, but we're going to try to make that accessible. We think that there'll be, if it's just even approved, that there'll be other companies that take on that same approach, and that'll leave room for people to still engage in the economy without being excluded from it. And we put a couple other things in there where we're saying kind of a belt and suspenders approach. We say what a utility token is, what a utility token isn't, and we intend fully that we're going to have to register as a money service business. We intend fully that there should be some rules to keep customers from being defrauded. And so a utility token already is a form of what's called prepaid access, and it's regulated by FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is underneath the Treasury. So, are our suggested amendments the be all end all? No, they're not. They're a starting point. So I'd encourage you to go to our website, read what we've suggested to Congress, to the senator, see our arguments that we lay out there, and then contact your senator. And you don't have to just say, hey, vote for, the utility token amendment or Meadowlark amendment or whatever. You can also say, hey, I think we should do some of these other things too. And that's fine too. But time is short. They're working on this right now. They're probably going to pass this early part of 2026, maybe January. I don't know. Some of these things can speed up. Some of these things can slow down. We already have something there. So I would encourage you to push for that. I think that this is really an inflection point. I think this is something that most people don't know about. I've tried to explain how I came upon it, and hopefully this is helpful. All right. Thank you. Bye.